Basically, self-sabotage is what happens when we refuse to consciously meet our innermost needs. It becomes the coping mechanism that we use to stay in patterns, even when they hurt, even when they don't help us achieve our goals or have better connection in our relationships or whatever it is that we're saying that we want the most. Let's make this a little bit more personal. So, you've probably experienced moments when everything seems like it lines up. Like your goals, your plans, your desire to change, and then you don't follow through, right? You start strong and then you stall. In fact, we're going to talk about a whole stall acronym later on. I've broken it all down. In relationships, maybe like you say, you want more connection, you want deeper intimacy, but then you keep choosing emotionally unavailable partners, or maybe you're with a partner and you keep choosing to be emotionally unavailable or avoiding steps that you can control to enhance connection. Maybe you want financial freedom, but you avoid looking at your bank account or following through with interested prospects or sending an invoice if you have your own business. Maybe you want better health, but somehow you keep skipping the workout, not scheduling the appointments to care for your health, or like numbing out with foods or activities that keep you separate from being healthier. These things are not flaws. It's a protection pattern. But for a lot of us, it's working too well. It's protecting us more than we want it to. So before we dive into shifting the patterns, we need to talk about what's really running the show behind the scenes. It's your nervous system. So the nervous system is your body's built-in surveillance system. Its entire job is to answer one question, moment to moment. Am I safe or not? It's pretty simple, but here's the thing. It isn't about logical safety. It's about perceived safety, which is based in your past experiences, your beliefs, your trauma history, and your conditioning. It's a lot of stuff it's based on. That also means that your nervous system isn't here to support you with your goals and dreams. Neither is your brain. In fact, it doesn't care. Neither of them care if you achieve them or not. When your nervous system detects a threat, real or perceived, it shifts into protection mode. And oftentimes that looks like self-sabotage, looks like procrastination. And this shift is called nervous system dysregulation. So while we often associate trauma with extreme events, the truth is chronic stress, emotional neglect, high expectations, and unmet needs throughout your life or at any time in your life can lead to ongoing dysregulation. So instead of thriving, you end up surviving, which is it's not optimal for any of us. So a dysregulated nervous system doesn't just show up as panic attacks or meltdowns. It shows up as overwhelm from simple tasks. It shows up as emotional outbursts, shows up as emotional numbness, shows up as inability to rest without feeling guilty about it. It shows up as procrastinating even when you truly do care about the thing that you want to be doing. And it shows up as feeling stuck in a pattern that you consciously want to change. So the way your nervous system responds to dysregulation varies. It depends on who you are and what you've been through. Often we cycle through multiple responses depending on the context. So let's explore the 6 most common trauma responses. And we will start with, we've all heard about fight or flight, kind of as typical nervous system responses. I personally believe there are a bunch more Fs that come in here, and some of them are not for little ears. So if you are listening with kids, then just realize this is about to get pretty like PG-13 here in a few minutes. So first one's fight. We've all heard that one. So the fight response kicks in when our nervous system senses danger and believes that the way to stay safe is to go on the offense. So that can look like, and I want you guys to be thinking as I'm going through these, like, where do I default? We all do some of these or all of these, but just see like where you are. There's going to be 6 total. Which one is your go-to, or how many out of 6 do you tend to do? I'd love to kind of see that in the chat as we're going through this. So with fight, again, anger or defensiveness, perfectionism, micromanagement, pushing hard, like a real need to prove your worth, overworking, hyperachieving. In health, fight can look like You push your body past exhaustion because rest feels weak or rest feels lazy. In like wealth and abundance creation, it could be like nonstop hustling, convinced that success must be earned through hard sacrifice. And in relationships, this could look like picking fights or becoming overly critical when you feel vulnerable, maybe to avoid like deeper emotional exposure. So at its core, fight energy says, if I can dominate or control the situation, I'll be safe. And it's a high cost though. It's a high cost way to live. And it's often rooted in childhood environments where boundary or power dynamics were violated. The next F is flight. So this is all about, I have to escape or outpace this threat. The flight response is all about escaping discomfort, and that's, physically, emotionally, mentally. And it's not always running out of the room. It can also be busyness, like hyper productivity. It can be overthinking or obsessively planning. It can be constantly switching goals or ideas. You start working on this, but oh no, now I want to do this. Avoiding conflict or discomfort at whatever cost. Let's give a few examples here, because throughout this workshop, I want to show you that this shows up in any important area of our life. And I do truly believe that the most important areas for any of us in our life are health, wealth, and relationships. So in health, flight can show up like researching endlessly, but never actually starting a new health protocol. Maybe you know all the things you need to do to get healthier, but you refuse to do any of them. In wealth, it could look like starting new projects or businesses and then abandoning them before you complete them or let them, launch and succeed. In relationships, it could be ghosting people. It could be leaving emotionally when things get too close, too hard. And this often is like, so what flight says is, if I can move fast enough, then I'll outrun the danger. That's kind of the inner voice with that one. But it often leads to burnout, anxiety, and feeling like you are doing everything right and still getting nowhere. It's like, how could this be? I'm doing all the things. So let's move on to the next one and see how that one resonates and who it resonates with. So the next one's freeze. This is like, I can't do anything, just stuck. Freeze response happens when your nervous system just basically slams the brakes because it doesn't believe fight and flight are possible, or one or the other, or both. So this creates shutdown, numbness, dissociation, overwhelm to the point of like paralysis, loss of motivation, maybe even loss of interest, things that you actually like care about in life, and a sense of being like on pause almost. So in health, this could be like you stop reaching out for help. You isolate, you feel unable to make appointments, work out, eat right, make decisions. In wealth, could be like you avoid looking at finances, or you put off launching a business and offer getting that next, job, changing careers, whatever the thing might be. In relationships, you stop expressing your needs. You disconnect, or you freeze during like intimacy or confrontation. It's what your body does when it feels that doing anything might make things worse. But the longer that you stay there, the harder it becomes to access action, connection, or even hope. So freeze can be really difficult to get back out of. Let's go on to the next F, fawn. Okay, so fawn is basically, I'll become who you need me to be to stay safe. Okay, so fawning is a lesser known trauma response, but for many women and men too, I've seen it in both, especially those who were raised to be good girls. And I personally think good girl conditioning also is in any gender. It's people pleasing essentially. And doing things the way that you were expected to, or being raised to be a peacemaker. It's this dominant pattern there. And it can also come through in masking. And that happens a lot with the type of people I help, neurodivergent, ADHD. We do a lot of masking. So fawning looks like chronic people pleasing, overgiving, self-abandoning, avoiding boundaries to keep others happy, and merging with others' desires and ignoring your own. So let's see, I'm seeing stuff coming up in the comments now. Yep. Okay. So in health, let's go through the three main areas. In health, fawning is going to be neglecting your needs to care for others. In wealth, it's going to be undercharging, over delivering, usually out of fear of disappointing or letting people down. In relationships, it's going to be like you suppress your emotions and needs to keep the peace. Fawning is about maintaining attachment, even at the cost of authenticity. So this often stems from early experiences where love and safety were conditional for you. So let's see. Darren's like, this resonates, different response in different areas. Yep. Tanya, me, Mickey, yes. Okay, so lots of kind of hand raising here. Katie says, my behavior changes to blend in while fawning involves prioritizing others' needs to avoid conflict. Yeah, great awareness. All right, let's go on to the next F. So the next one is flop, okay? So this is basically like, I collapse to avoid further harm. Boop, flop. Flop is similar to freeze, but it has more of like a physical shutdown quality. It's like kind of like the body going limp, giving in, or just kind of like collapsing under pressure. This is like deep dorsal vagal state, if you understand like the nervous system or polyvagal theory or any of that kind of stuff. And don't worry if you don't, we're not going to go there. Often triggered by like intense helplessness or overwhelm. So flop looks like chronic fatigue. It's like the I can't get out of bed energy. It looks like giving up before you even try, or letting other people make all of the decisions, feeling emotionally heavy, feeling hopeless, feeling like beyond repair. And so in health, this is like you resign yourself to illness or symptoms, convinced nothing will help. In wealth, this is like you just give up, like give up growing your business, give up changing your financial situation, just this is how it is, I guess. And in relationships, you may allow yourself to be mistreated, manipulated, because asserting yourself feels impossible. Absolutely impossible. So flop is often the response of someone who has been through prolonged stress, neglect, or burnout. Typically, you're going to see other things before you see flop. And it's like a final giving in when the body believes, I can't fight, I can't flee, I can't fawn, just, it's totally possible to come back from this, guys. I have helped many clients who have come to me after burnout or, in switching careers because like corporate burned them out and they're looking for renewal and something new, or they're just like, they're ready to make a comeback. It's totally possible. Some of them I think are on this call today. All right. So yeah. And Kelly says, just want to sit on the couch, but feel guilty about it. It's a hamster wheel. I keep burnout, anxiety, depression. Yeah. All of these things come out. All right. So now it's the cover your ears time for the kids, because the last F is fuck. So this is, I'll use sexuality as a way to regulate or survive. This one isn't always talked about, but it's important to name this, especially in my community, because I know a lot of the people that I work with want to improve intimacy. They want to improve relationships. And when I say intimacy, I'm not just talking about sex. If this is a protective mechanism, then intimacy and connection will not be improved with sex applied as a protective response. Okay? So the fuck response is when sexual behavior is used as a form of nervous system regulation. Okay? Often unconsciously. It's not necessarily about desire or connection. Okay? It's about survival. So this can look like seeking validation through or control through sex. It can look like using sexual energy to avoid other emotions. It can look like being sexual when you don't actually feel safe or connected, feeling disconnected or numb during intimacy, and associating sex with a way to feel powerful or loved. Okay, so again, let's go through these three different areas of our life that mean so much to us. In health, this could look like ignoring your bodily boundaries or engaging in sexual activities despite discomfort or emotional pain. In abundance, wealth, this could manifest subtly in how you market or express yourself, like using seduction instead of authenticity to gain approval or attention. And in relationships, you may perform intimacy rather than experiencing it, more performative, or struggle to like receive love unless it's sexualized. So this is often rooted in past sexual trauma, boundary violations, or learned associations that sex equals safety, attention, or control. Okay, so thank you to those of you who are resonating with this. I know this is not one that people always want to be like, oh, I'll put my hands up for this, but I think we can all relate to all of these in some way, shape, or form.